he's at the point now, and he's doing the thing that I think Drake should be doing is like, everybody's going to listen to it anyways. So just make it the way that is core to you, right?
Yep.
And he did that. Everybody's going to listen to Bad Bunny's music.
Mhm.
Everybody knows who he is, right? You just said people even know what he looks like before they even know his music.
Yep.
So you could just make your music, your art, right? And then everybody's still going to show up because everybody's showing up for Bad Bunny regardless of what it is.
Good afternoon, beautiful people. This is another episode of Album Mode. We review a new album every single week. We look at the lyrics, the production, the overall aesthetic of the album, and how that album fits into the context of that artist's career. For everyone watching on YouTube, make sure you like this video, leave us a comment, subscribe, and let us know how wrong we always are. My name is Adriel Smiley, aka AdrielSmiley.com, aka Adriel Smiley Official, aka The Godfather. And we're here with His Royal Highness, aka The Bunny, aka No Longer a Munch, King Grant.
Welcome back, everybody. It's Album Mode. This time we're reviewing Bad Bunny.
Mm-hmm.
His album's name is TiRAR, MáS FOToS. I want to make sure everybody in the audience. Okay, first of all, I don't speak Spanish, unfortunately.
You don't say.
Unfortunately, I don't speak Spanish. But that was my earnest attempt at the name of the album. Bad Bunny, reggaeton, pop star, trap star, all-star, basically.
Mm-hmm.
He is, I guess, what is his analogous? It's like kind of like Puerto Rican Drake.
Yep, that's what I would say, yeah.
Yeah, he is somebody who is immensely popular in so many different ways. Spanish-speaking world, he's like, he's one of the kings.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that this is a time that we have all come around as a music community to, I feel like, celebrate Bad Bunny, or at least talk about him, because I feel like this is the most his music has been talked about in the English-speaking world in a while.
Well, I think that's a good place to start, because I think that's actually not true.
Okay.
We're pretty late, I think, in covering him.
We are late.
For sure, but I would say this is not his peak, because this is his 6th studio album.
Mm-hmm.
I think 2018 was the start of America and the Western world really knowing about him in a large way. We're now 6 years after that, 2024.
Mm-hmm.
And, he actually was, had a lot more, I guess, popularity in his past projects. This one is still very popular.
Yeah.
He's still breaking all the records. That's what he does. But, it's not as, I guess, big as his past projects have been. I want to start with a couple of things. Let's do some translation here.
Okay.
The name of this project, I'm not going to say it in Spanish like you did.
Okay.
But in English, it translates to, I should have taken more photos.
Yeah.
Well,
at least I went for it. You didn't even go for it.
Listen, you did it for the both of us. You did it for the both of us. We're going to shorten the name of the project in Spanish to DTMF.
Mm-hmm.
I think it works for us. His previous record was in 2023, so this is his first album since then. And then his most personal and most rooted in his, kind of Puerto Rican heritage of any project he's made. I'm going to read a bit from him that he said about the project and then go into kind of his past success. He said, "Photos are lived moments, memories of things that happened. I wasn't one to take photos or upload stories or anything like that. I used to say that it was better to live in the moment. And when you get to this age, remembering isn't so easy. I should have taken more photos, lived more, loved more when I could. While you're alive, you should love as much as you can." Snaps for that. Snaps for that. We've done a little bit of trying to read some words from the artist to start a project to kind of know where their head is at, where they're headed. Mm-hmm. I think that is probably one of the best we've read. One, I agree with his message. I do think we got to take more photos than me and my family try and do a lot of. Mm-hmm. But as well, this actually fits the project. A lot of times they'll say stuff at the beginning and then the album will be a little different from where they're headed, not to name any names, but there'll be a whole different direction. This is one of those times where this beginning monologue that he has about the project actually fits the project. I'm going to start bringing this up in 2025. I have this page actually saved on my phone and on my computer, and it's monthly Spotify listeners. You can see who has the most at this current time, what's the highest someone has ranked, where they're trending in terms of losing or gaining followers, and then as well, what's the highest they've peaked in terms of followers. And I'm going to give you some trivia here. What do you think the highest Bad Bunny has peaked in terms of followers?
On Spotify?
Yeah, in terms of monthly listeners of all artists. What do you think is the highest he's peaked?
Oh, probably number one. Yeah, probably.
No, number 3 is the highest he's peaked. And why I mentioned that is because, you know, his highest was 84 million monthly listeners. Yeah. He's right now at about 78 million. So he's been more popular than this. Still extremely popular. Of course, 78 million is no small number. But just to put that in perspective of he's been more popular than this. The 2 people right above him and below him, you would never guess. Right below him, Mariah Carey. Of course, you know, she just had her time of the year. And you know, her height is at 100 monthly listeners, 100 million.
Christmas time is a great time.
And why I bring her up before I mention the person above him is because it shows daily trend in terms of, you know, how people are like gaining, how many people you're gaining per day type of deal. She is at, you know, minus 1.6 million. He's at plus 1.2 million.
Okay.
So going in complete opposite directions.
Yeah.
He's on the way up, she's on the way down. And then right above him, one of our favorite artists of all time, Kendrick Lamar. So very interesting to see Bad Bunny in this spot. Right now ranked 15th in the world in terms of monthly listeners. So is of course still a huge artist, but not at the height he was a few years ago. It's kind of like we're used to him now. Sort of thing. And then last but not least, he had the 2 singles. El Club was the first one, which was released as a Lucy at first, and then he told everyone this is a single from a project, which everyone's like, okay, project coming. Everyone was very excited. And then Pitoro de Coco, second single in December.
Okay.
That one.
Wait, hold on a second. Why are you going for the pronunciations on I would say the simpler titles?
Listen,
a little bit afraid
I don't make the rules. So whatever comes across my teleprompter is what I read.
Sounded a little afraid over there. A little bit afraid.
So that's the second single. And then 2 other songs, Nou Voyal and Bail in Vol d'Able.
Oh.
There you go.
Okay.
You got what you wanted. Both of those are premiering at 27 and 28 on the Billboard Hot 100. Both great premieres for a regular artist, I would say, but for Bad Bunny, a little lower than we're used to from him because, again, he is a chart topper, a superstar by all means. So that's setting the scene of where he's at commercially at this time in the project. Tell me about what you're thinking going into this project, because for me, I have some fans that we're Bad Bunny people. Like when he does a project, we're like, all right, new Bad Bunny, we're running to it. So where were you in terms of excitement for this project?
So with Bad Bunny, I do recognize his immense fame. Mm-hmm. His ability to cross over is pretty astounding, considering, you know, his music is like reggaeton. He sings in Spanish in a lot of his music. So for him to cross over in this way has actually been pretty incredible. And I think it's actually amazing. So leading into this album, obviously I'm aware of Bad Bunny, but I wasn't like dialed into this album coming out, which is crazy to say about literally one of the most famous people on planet Earth and one of the most popular artists of our time. But I was aware of the album cover before the album even came out, where I saw this TikTok about this dude talking about the history of the chairs that are on the front. Where it's like, why do these chairs like resonate with so many people, especially people from outside of North America or outside of America and like Canada and stuff like that, just people outside of that space. And watching that video and about like, you know, what it's like most people like in these different countries are, you know, less socioeconomically advantaged, have these like really old and really like, they're kind of like crappy chairs, legit. Like if you've ever sat in them.
And first of all, how do we get them? Because they can't be stacked either. They always just show up. No one knows where to buy them. But you're right. These are the chairs.
Right. So I was watching this TikTok about these chairs, right? And I saw the photo and I was like, oh, that's cool. Like it kind of reminded me of like Jamaica, right? And then I heard about this album coming out, and then I saw the album cover, and I'm like, oh my God, they're talking about these chairs. So I've almost known about the release like innocuously before it was really a thing that was like being announced to me, right? But I think that Bad Bunny he's always been a curious artist to me, because he is like kind of like Drake, where like the sound's always changing. Sound's always changing. Sometimes he's a hard rapper, sometimes he's a lovesick singer, Sometimes it's, again, trap music, reggaeton, pop music, like it's all over the place. So he's always fascinated me in that way. So when this was coming out, I was intrigued because I'm like, what is it gonna sound like? That's actually one of the more interesting things to me. But then people were saying it's so personal. The message is so deep, so heartfelt. So that really made me want to tap in.
Yeah, this is a project where I think it was most tapped into his roots. Of course, everyone knows what's going on in Puerto Rico right now with the disaster, and of course with what's going on with their government as well. So he kind of alluded to that as him not wanting to drop music while that all was happening. And so that's why everyone was very excited about, okay, he's actually putting out music. And I think that ties into what you're saying about the lyrics and some of the messaging of what's going on in Puerto Rico being on the project. Of course, I'm going to highlight some lyrics that have nothing to do with that at all, that are kind of more traditional Bad Bunny lyrics. But on this project, he does take the time to kind of tailor his message towards what's actually going on in his country right now. My favorite thing about Bad Bunny is that, you know, there's a group of us who are Bad Bunny fans. When I say us, I mean millions of people who are Bad Bunny fans who don't speak a lick of Spanish. And when this project came out, I kind of saved it for the right time to listen to it in full. 17 songs, an hour and 2 minutes.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure I got all the way through. I saved it for a drive where I can listen to this whole thing. And the energy on this project is different than some of his past projects. It definitely feels like more of a sound specific to the culture. And the thing about his music, at least this project, is it doesn't actually fit every scenario. And I think that's why I want to talk about the lyrics first, is because most of us who are listening, at least in our part of the world, don't understand what he's saying.
Right.
And so we're just going off of the vibe.
Yeah.
And sometimes this music is not the vibe for certain things. You know, there are certain places where you don't want your waistline to be moving the way it does when you hear this song. So I think it's just so interesting that, you know, it doesn't take away from the actual energy of the music when he does get more serious and talk about the issue. So, you know, great by him as an artist to kind of like toe that line. I think there's a place for us to start with lyrics that you should start, because I feel like you have more of a serious take on what he's talking about.
Yeah, I think, well, when it comes to reviewing this, it was definitely interesting because I don't speak Spanish. So I was like, okay, how do I approach the lyrics? How do I, and I think this is actually just important to talk about. Just like, how do you approach the lyrics to an album where you don't speak the language? How do you really review that? Right.
Yep.
And to me, I was like, okay, I'm going to take it in a space where which songs sound the coolest to me. Right. And then I'm going to dive into the lyrics and see if he's actually saying shit on the songs, or if it's just, you know, sometimes you can be like, what's a great example? You can be like, I don't know, like T-Pain, right?
Okay.
You're singing about bartenders. It's a vibe.
A shot of T-Pain, I see you.
It's a vibe, but it's ultimately a song about trying to seduce a bartender. It's not very significant lyrically, right? And I think that when it comes to Bad Bunny, that's the type of mentality I took towards like going into the lyrics. I'm like, okay, what songs sound cool? And then I'm going to dive into the lyrics. So like El Club, okay? El Club is probably my favorite song production-wise.
Interesting.
Production-wise on this, because it has like that, I mean, it's very like electronic sounding, but then there's like halfway through, it goes to literally, it's a deep house song.
Yep.
Which was incredible. And it really showed to me that that song to me was like, if Drake actually like took Honestly Nevermind and kept like trying to go down that direction, he probably could have made that song. Especially when you read the lyrics, right? Where this is on verse 1, he's talking about, the song is basically talking about like he is living a life in the club, or just like he is experiencing going to the club, but then he is also like forlorn, thinking about like somebody that broke up with him. So in verse 1, he's like, what the hell could she be doing? Is she out partying? Is she sleeping? Is she smoking? Is she drinking? Is she still single, or is she seeing someone? That's not me, not me. Baby, that's not me, not me. I bet I'd forget about you and lost $500. Once again, my feelings got the best of me. The guys think I'm doing fine, but no, I'm dead inside. The club is packed and yet so empty because my girl isn't here. the one I'd laugh with, the one I'd climax with, the one I used to talk to every day, and now I don't know anything. Hey, right? So this is what I'm talking about, where like it's like this deep house, very much, again, all of his music is, I would say most of his music, extremely danceable.
Yes.
And it's very forlorn, very sad, right? Very sad in a way I was not predicting for Bad Bunny to be. But I thought, to me, I'm like, okay, if you can merge the lyrics and like very interesting sounding music, like it's super, like, again, it's deep house. Like maybe other people are expecting that, people who are Bad Bunny heads and they're deep into the Bad Bunny verse, and they're like, oh yeah, he's definitely. You haven't heard the dubstep songs by him, you know what I mean? To me, that was abstract. So I was like, okay, this is cool. And then the lyrics, the sadness combined with the deep house, is kind of unique. So I was like, okay, this is awesome, man.
Yeah, it's a lot of yearning. I would say this is like some yearning on this song. And it's sometimes this yearning in the way you're saying of like, I miss my baby girl type of yearning. Sometimes yearning as like, girl, you look so good. I need you right now. It's like he will yearn in either direction, but it is like that middle ground of like, I kind of want you, or no, he doesn't really live there. It's either like, I feel heavily this way, or I feel heavily this way. And I like that about him lyrically, because I feel like it matches the sound. And I think this is, to me, why I think I understand it more now, reviewing his project, just listening to them. Because before I would just listen, I never looked at the lyrics. Whatever song fits my vibe. And I'm just listening to it. But now, reading the lyrics and kind of seeing the translations, I understand why, his fans love him so much, because think about the yearning he's doing on these records. Like, you're right, this is a deep house record where he is yearning deeply. And it's like, we talk about how like almost crazy it is, but how interesting it is when Drake or The Weeknd do it.
Yeah.
And it's these records that have such a crazy sound, and the stuff they're saying, it's like, whoa, you're saying this on this? That's what he's doing here.
Yeah, I thought that's sick, man.
And I feel like, these huge pop stars, like maybe that's a formula that we're realizing now as we speak, is like the huge pop stars, it's like the sound and the lyrics don't have to kind of go in concert the way we saw Lil Baby do when we did our review last week, where when it's time for him to get serious, okay,
this is serious music.
The beat gets a little more somber, it changes. It's like, no, you could put Still Tipping on and be heartbroken. So I think he has that formula down pat. On Voy a la Verta pa PR, which means I'm going to take you to PR. This was one of the songs lyrically that, honestly, I was going to have more lyrics on here, and I deleted them. Because I said, this is where it can end for me, because I like this kind of Bad Bunny. I think that publicly is, very humble, not very boastful. And in this song, he's talking he's talking it. And I like when he does that, because somehow it's very similar to The Weeknd, where it feels smooth in a sense. What he's actually saying is vulgar and borderline disrespectful, but it just sounds smooth and it works. On verse 1, he says, "The one who looks me in the eyes for 5 seconds, I already know she's mine. Where are the bad ones? They're welcome. I'm ready for trouble. Tell me if you mess around. Your friends and the whole gang are so hot. But that ass of yours, wow, stood out. We left the club and it was daytime. Obviously, I went out with the one I wanted. Hey, long live whoring."
Wow.
Like,
what an ending.
And it's like, it's for him to make that kind of sound like it works. Obviously, we don't speak the language, so we're not getting that in the actual song itself.
Yeah,
but
the contextualization.
But I think there's something about the mix of these kind of lyrics with the sound. It's like, this is, again, the I guess idea of like a hookup meet cute. That's what this is. This is day party music of like, day party, group of girls, we link up, I see the one I like, we get it poppin'. There's plenty of songs with this message talking about this kind of party. And for all my people who know this kind of party, you know what kind of vibe this is. But for him to take it straight away and have these, I guess, specific things in there that are not just, we locked eyes, or I thought she was fly, we left together. He says, "The one who looks at me in the eyes for 5 seconds, I already know she's mine." And then at the end, him going, obviously, I went out with the one I wanted.
Right.
Long live whoring. It's like,
that last line is killing me.
Long live whoring is crazy. But I think it's almost like he's taking something that's not, I guess, deep in nature in terms of like partying and having fun, but he's going even deeper into that because something as simple as going with the one you wanted. Think about going to a party and like you may like this girl, but this girl gives you more attention, so you talk to her. Like that intricacy is not necessary all the time, but him doing a good job of highlighting that is something that we're almost taking for granted here because he doesn't need to do that. You know, he can still show the fun he's having, how fun the party is, without saying specifically, I got the one I wanted.
Okay.
So it's almost not necessary at all, but I like the way he does it because it's very, very straightforward, and it's for a certain audience because this other line in there, sorry, before I'm gonna let you get yourself off, but the other line there, he says, your friends and the whole gang are so hot, but the ass of yours, wow, stood out. It's like, think about all the ways we've heard people say stuff like this, and he's just saying it as straightforward as possible. Like, we think that other people are saying it straightforward. It's like, no, he's beating you in the straightforward contest. So, Benito, you're a fan of me.
Wow. Okay. Well, that is.
Like, where do you go from there?
Yeah. Wow. You know.
Long live whoring.
Yeah, I think that you know, shout out to Bad Bunny and being able to go that deep on a one night stand or night out. I think that for me, personally, I'm here for the heartfelt lyrics. You know what? But I would say that this shows at least a duality in his music, right? Because I do think that in his songs, especially DTMF, the song, not the album.
Yeah, I'm
not going for the pronunciation again.
Once was enough.
Yeah, once was enough. I'm leaving that. That's the fodder because I know there's always people who want to make fun of me.
Yeah,
on online. Go ahead. Okay, but here's DTMF. This is one of the most heartfelt songs I've heard in a while. And this is, I remember, you know, when my listening process when it comes to the albums is still the same. I listen to it once, don't even look at any lyrics or anything like that. I'm just listening to it. And then progressively, you know, second, third time, then I'm really like tapping into the lyrics and so forth. When I listen to this song, from the very beginning, I'm like, man, I'm getting this like emotional, like, I don't even know how to describe it. Like it felt almost like teary-eyed first listening to it, and especially when you get the group vocals on the hook of DTMF, I'm like, oh man, this is like really, like I could feel the home. I could feel the return to a locate. Like I could just feel it, and I don't even speak the language, right? But then when I actually went to the lyrics, I'm like, okay, let me figure out what the hell is actually going on in this song. Right? I go to verse 1 where he says, another beautiful sunset in San Juan, enjoying everything that the departed are missing out on, everything, enjoying nights like those that don't come often, but want to go back to the time that I looked into your eyes and to tell you the things I didn't tell you. You look like my crush. And to take the pictures I didn't take. Damn, I swear you look so pretty. Let me take a picture of you. So that first verse, that's the first half of the first verse. And then he goes into more, he's like, oh, my chest feels so empty. I got hit hard. My heart is pounding. Tell me, baby, where are you? That part, I'm like, okay, that's, you know, it's sad, right? And also it's like reminiscing in the way that, again, I don't want to compare him to Drake too much, but I'm like, when I listen to his lyrics, or read the lyrics, I'm like, oh, this kind of reminds me of Drake a lot. But this reminiscing and like, you know, thinking about the photos, taking pictures, like I wish I took more pictures, right? But then the chorus, when I actually listen to this song and then read the chorus vocals, read the chorus and then hear the vocals from like the group vocals, I get teary-eyed, bro. It hits me legitimately because of the chorus is, I should have taken more pictures when I had you. Should have given you more kisses and hugs whenever I could. I hope my people never move away. And if I get drunk today, I hope they help me out. I should have taken more pictures when I had you. I should have given you more kisses and hugs whenever I could. I hope my people never move away. And if I get drunk today, I hope they help me out. So that is like I feel like it's a double entendre, right? 'Cause he's also talking about Puerto Rico because you can't be like, I hope that people never move away. And you're talking about one person,
yeah,
right? So I think that there's like this double entendre with like his love for Puerto Rico, but then his love for like a significant other that has left him, and even in verse 1 is talking about like enjoying the things that the departed are missing out on. So there's even like an aspect of like death and like loss. And I don't know what it is, man. Every time, sometimes even like speaking about it, like my voice waver. I'm like, I don't know. It hits me hard. Like it hits me on a level where it's just like I can't explain it.
I understand it because this is something I feel like a lot of Americans are feeling for the first time with the fires in LA, where it's like there's almost a certain amount of money that doesn't protect you from things like this.
Yeah.
When you saw what happened in Puerto Rico, what's happening to Los Angeles right now, it's like you can be a millionaire, but your whole house being burned down, it's like all those memories, all those things that you have, there's no amount of money that can save you from that. And I think when I think about this project, especially the title of it is I Shouldn't Take More Photos, is that's what I think about. Is like he may be a gazillionaire, he may have everything materialistically that he wants, but when you see the place you grew up, underwater, or you see the building where you went to school has to be rebuilt completely.
Yeah.
It's like you think about, I should have taken more photos. I should have, held on to these memories even more. So what you're saying, I totally understand, because I do think this is something that people in different parts of the world have been accustomed to for a long time and have been going through often, especially, us being from Jamaica, like, hurricane season, you're getting that phone call, making sure everyone's okay, over and over again. So I feel like the world as a whole is kind of understanding this a little bit more. And I like that he put it in the music, because we do have this part of our culture where people who have money, who are famous, we think about like nothing can affect them. They're going to be fine. And I've always gone against that idea, because I realize that they're still human. But this is one of those things where no amount of money stopped your house from being burnt down. No amount of money stopped your whole building from going under. So I think this is a song where he really, really puts it together. And I like the way this song is a double entendre, because there's another song on here, I forgot the name of it, where I felt like it was connected to the song that I had, because he has this yearning for love in some of his records that are about like a romantic interest, where, again, you said Drake. It reminds me of, it's like he could know this woman for a month, but the way he's talking about it, it's like, it's one of those ones where it's like y'all just met and y'all had a connection right away, and it just was, y'all slept together in the same bed for 6 days in a row, and y'all know each other for 3 days. So it's like
king of the love bomb.
It was giving love bomb for sure. So he has a lot of that. So I think what I like about this project, and we can get into production more, is like he does mesh the two of like, I am being more open and talking about kind of how I really feel and, more emotional things. But I think it matches the sound of the project when this song sounds more like the country.
Yeah, at DTMF, I mean, that song, oh man, that one is like I'm trying to figure out what playlist to put it on, because like sometimes like it's a sad song, but there's also like a freeness to the music, because it's still technically reggaeton, that right? But there's these I don't know, like when you know the lyrics, you can't escape it. You can't escape like the sadness, even though that it sounds kind of happy at the same time.
I think, I don't know what place it would go in. Maybe if you have like a reggae playlist. Yeah. Because there are some reggae songs like that where the beat still has a vibe to it. But when you hear what they're saying, like I think about No Letting Go by Wayne Wonder, which is an absolute classic everyone knows. When you hear what he's saying, it's like, this man was in a love. Yeah. So I think maybe something like that, where it's like there's a big yearning in the lyrics. Beres Hammond has a bunch of songs like that it's like, it's a bop, but you're like, he's singing from pain. Yeah. So I totally understand that.
The vocals are incredible.
Yeah, I love the vocals. He has some vocal performances in here that are pretty good. You talked about that influence of the deep house. It reminded me of the song Perfumito Nuevo. Okay. And this song, I had a bunch of comps for this song, and it made me realize, I'm like, a lot of this project has some kind of like tinges of this. Those synths at the beginning remind me of the late 2000s pop era. Lady Gaga, Colby O'Donis, Danity Kane.
What?
of that era.
When was the last time Danity Kane got mentioned anywhere? Like,
well, recently, Diddy.
Oh, okay. Well.
Yeah, sorry.
Musically though.
Not in a while. Not in a while. And then at the end of that song, there's a riff at like 2:45 where it's almost like it's like a synth solo.
Yeah.
And it's something that we don't really have anymore, but it's reminded me of like, this is what pop music used to sound like. Even Akon, Timbaland dabbled in it a little bit. But it was like, when you mentioned Deep House, I'm like, he's taking like these elements of old pop music and kind of like reggaetoning them.
Yeah.
And I think it totally is working. And I think this song is a place where it works. But there's some parts in this where it's like, you probably have never heard these two things together, because these synths, if you take away the drums and some of the horns, you would be like, okay, you're about to hear Lady Gaga from 09 just kill this, you know? But once you throw the drums on it, it's like, okay, no, this is reggaeton again. So to have those two things mesh together so well, I really think that he did a good job with that.
Yeah, his ability to mash those two things together is next level. I think of a song like, what is it, Ketu Tessere?
There we go.
Ketu Tessere, I think. Again, I don't speak Spanish. But I think that song, because of it's like, it's almost psychedelic, not really psychedelic, it's almost like a dreamlike type of synth tones at the beginning. And I love his melodies on that. That part is so good at the very beginning. But I think that those are like that type of like almost psychedelic, kind of like dreamy type of work going into the background of like also reggaeton actually happening on top of it, the drums, which are very like trademark. Like you cannot.
Yeah.
Like I'm trying to think of like, man, a reggaeton song is so distinct in its percussion. But yeah, I think that is really interesting too. Just like these interesting synths, you know, psychedelic. You're talking about 2000s pop. We were talking about, you know, these like group vocals, and it sounds more like home-like. So there's a lot of traversing of different types of sound. Deep house we were talking about earlier. So these are things that it never feels out of place though. I think that the drums really ground everything else, where that you can never get too far away from what he is trying to do, because those drums are like 90% of the songs will be there. So I think even being able to introduce those like dreamlike tones, and then taking away the drums, and then it's just the tones and him singing in the background, which I think he's a phenomenal singer. Or I think. What do I know? I don't speak Spanish, so like, you know, there's only somebody who sings in Spanish. They're like, oh my God, are you kidding me?
Yeah, like him?
Yeah, it's like, this guy sounds like fucking Lil Baby. Like, what are you talking about?
Screaming.
But I think he's a good enough singer, for sure. So I think that, yeah, it's cool. Ketu is really cool too. I did have one problem.
Let's hear it.
On the production.
How dare you?
I think this is Lo que le pasa a Hawaii. And then there was another song later in the album where I think it was, hold on a second, I think it was Pitero de Coco.
Yep.
Where that's earlier, but it's like, stop cutting the track. Why do you keep cutting the track? Why are we cutting? Because the songs are so rhythmic. Vibes all the time. Great vibes. You like dancing? Why are you cutting the music in the middle of people dancing? That's like being like, you couldn't even imagine you go to a party and then everybody's having a great time, everybody's dancing.
I think this is like a cultural thing that you're not understanding.
We're dancing, and then
that's part of the vibe though. That I was gonna mention that because I like when he does that, because I think that's like part of the energy where it's like music can cut out, people can like keep singing and keep dancing. It's almost like when you go to a club now, and if they play All Gold Everything and they cut the music out and everyone goes, Papa Molly, I'm swaying.
Yeah.
It's akin to that. So I think it works most of the time on What Happened to Hawaii, one of the songs you named.
Yeah.
The bass line on that bass line is given Dirty South.
But like, that's what I'm saying. Why are we cutting the track?
But I the thing I realized about this project, which is like so almost foreign to most Americans, Canadians in general, is like, this whole album is danceable, and we don't dance in the same way when we go out. I think that's kind of almost, this album's for a whole different culture. Like, that's obvious, it's not in English, but it's for a whole different, even nightlife culture, because, you know, we talked about the last project we did, A Lil Baby, and how he has a million hit songs, and he played like, where you're going, they play Lil Baby, no, people aren't dancing to that. You know what I mean? It's a whole different vibe. This is music you're actually going to dance to. And the kind of dancing you're doing is not the dancing you're doing to what we listen to in the club. So I think in that sense, it fits that. Tourista is my favorite song on here production-wise. I think that production is beautiful. It's such a different energy than most of the project. It keeps the tempo where it's like, it's a little bit slower, but it's like, okay, this is still from the same world. The world has not changed completely.
Yeah.
And then having Café Conron right after that, that's when I knew. I said, okay, we're doing something here. Because I think that transition from one of the slowest songs on the project to a song that isn't necessarily one of the fastest, but brings up the tempo enough to continue the pace, that's where I was like, okay, there is some kind of cohesiveness, some kind of story told with this project, even with the production. And I don't know if that's intentional from him. I haven't heard him say that in an interview or in an article or anything like that, but that's where I think his music is so successful, is that there's a story without even knowing the lyrics.
Yeah.
And I think with those two back-to-back, Tourista and Café Conron, that's when I'm like, there's a story here if you don't have a clue what he's saying. And I'm like, that is not something we see on a lot of projects that we review here.
Yeah, I think that Tourista's, we didn't mention the lyrics, but that's one of the better lyrically written songs.
Yes.
I mean, verse 1 is like,
Beautiful.
or this is on, it's on the hook, actually, the chorus, sorry. It's like, in my life, you were a tourist, only saw the best of me and not how I was suffering. You left without me knowing, or left without the knowing, the reason for my wounds, and it wasn't your place to heal them. You came to have a good time, and we had a good time. Again, double entendre. Double entendre is going, again, Puerto Rico, popular vacation spot. Very popular vacation spot. People are going there, having a great time. Not nobody, but I would say the vast majority of the people that visit Puerto Rico are not attending Puerto Rico to be like, let me know the history of why this place, is damaged in the way that it is. They're just there they're just trying to dance. They're just trying to hang out. So I thought that was really cool that, again, it's like something that could be about him, but also about the country. So I think like those double entendres, being able to harness that and also have it be part of these, amazingly produced songs is actually next level. So yeah, I'm big on Tourista. I like Tourista a lot. I like that. I also like really morose guitars.
Yeah,
really sad.
And I think you mentioned his voice earlier. The emotion in his voice works on this project all over. Well. Like Tourista is a song like, you had the song that made you feel a little something. Tourista was the one for me where I was like, I feel you, brother. Like I am with you. So I think that's the thing, is we're reviewing this as people who don't speak the native language. People who do speak the language, I'm sure they have a whole different review than we have.
They're roasting us. They're like, oh man, you don't even understand when he said this or when he said that.
A whole different review. But I think our review is important because he has such a huge fan base that doesn't speak the language. True. And I think talking about this project is, me and my friends who are messaging about the project and excited for it to come out, none of us speak Spanish at all. Don't plan to speak Spanish, don't have a lick of Spanish. And we're here like, you're the new Bad Bunny, like excited for it.
Right.
And we're talking about, I play it when I walk the dog, I play it this, for Hitler this. So I think it's like part of his success is the fans like us who don't know the lyrics at all. And it's very similar to me to hip hop, where a huge part of the fan base isn't from the culture, doesn't understand the slang, doesn't understand the actual background of what these stories are coming from. They're like, all right, this beat is cool. I also love bad bitches. This is cool to me. So I do think that's an important. And talking about the cohesiveness of the project, it is mostly reggaeton, so I think that's cohesive in itself. But to me, the reggaeton doesn't really, really start until the second song. The intro is actually almost like a traditional intro in the hip hop sense, where there's an intro to the intro. Then he's kind of like rapping on it a little bit. Then it slows down towards the end. And then the second song starts. And then it's like, okay, now we're getting into it. So I think the cohesiveness and kind of the flow of this project is actually really good. I know people think Bad Bunny and think, okay, an hour reggaeton, I know what this is. I think this is more than that.
Yeah, me too. And especially when you tie the lyrics that we're talking about to the production, then there is definitely like a flow of like the sadness and then wanting things to get better and then talking about Puerto Rico, and it all melds very well together. Because if you're, I think this is a great example. It's like if you're a non-Spanish speaker, like the two of us, you can first of all differentiate which song is which.
Yes.
But you can also tell like it's melding together well. And then when you read the lyrics, you're like, oh, this is where he's talking about Puerto Rico, but he's also talking about himself, or you know what I mean? And you could tell that too. And then the production never bursts like in any sort of way where you're like, what is this doing on the album? Because it's primarily reggaeton, so you're always gonna have like the reggaeton drums holding things together, right? Even if we're going into the deep house zone.
Yes.
There's still going to be elements of reggaeton to bring it back. So I think the cohesion is super high. I think it's really good. Like,
yeah, before we talk about this for his career, I wanted to give us some of the stats that he's putting up. Like, you know, in basketball, we're talking about Wemby becoming a top 10 player. Bad Bunny is doing some Wemby type stuff.
Yeah.
You know, DTMF remains at #1 on global Spotify. Biggest ever streaming day, 13 million plays. You know, 100 entries on the Hot 100, first Latin act to do so. So he is just doing things that we've absolutely never seen before. Baile Invalidable. That was super easy. The #1 trending video on YouTube Global. So I think this is something we've never seen before. And we kind of mentioned at the beginning, but I want to really, really have that set in because he's been a top artist for, you know, 6 years now, I'll say, since 2018. But we've really, really never seen this. Like, has there been a Latin artist this big globally? Like, you tell me, because I don't think we've ever seen anything like this.
I don't think for as long, because he's also like sustained.
But even peak, like, has there been someone who had a peak? Like, of course, Daddy Yankee had his time. Yeah, Gasolina still rings off. Let's not get it twisted. You know, the OG. But I don't know that Daddy Yankee had one song. I don't know that he had an album that was this big, you know, a run that was this big. Because Bad Bunny is to the level of artists where people know his name or his look without knowing his music.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe Shakira?
Shakira would be a good one.
Maybe Shakira.
I would say he's bigger than Shakira, to be fair. Like, yeah, Shakira is big, but I would say he's bigger than Shakira. But Shakira did have a moment for sure, and is still doing pretty well. Yeah,
so I'd say maybe Shakira, but he's definitely at the pinnacle. I mean, we're talking about sustained success in a different language than you know, so many of your fans don't even speak the language, right? So, yeah, I think for his career, ultimately, this is great. You know,
another win.
Yeah, it's another win because to make an album a personal album, right, and for it still to be super high selling and people are still super interested, and you know, people are reading the lyrics and talking about the lyrics and all this type of stuff, and for again to maintain his popularity while it's only in Spanish. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
Because he's at the point now and he's doing the thing that I think Drake should be doing, is like, everybody's going to listen to it anyways. So just make it the way that is core to you, right? Yep. And he did that. Everybody's going to listen to Bad Bunny's music. Everybody knows who he is, right? You just said people even know what he looks like before they even know his music.
Yep.
So you could just make your music, your art, right? And then everybody's still going to show up, because everybody's showing up for Bad Bunny regardless of what it is, right? So I think that for him to actually harness that and make it super personal, super centric on Puerto Rico, his life, etc., I think is amazing. And I think that just it's freeing as an artist, because like, you can do anything now. If people are tuning in to hear about you, particularly your country, particularly in a different language, particularly, that means you can do literally anything.
Yeah, and I think the best thing about what he's done is that the sound for this project is more traditional than his past projects.
Yeah.
I think to the naked ear, it probably all sounded like this the whole time. But this is a project that you hear it and you're like, oh, this sounds like it's coming from Puerto Rico. And I feel like his last projects didn't have that sound necessarily. It was definitely still reggaeton adjacent, hip-hop influence, pop influence, but this is a project of all the projects that it's like, okay, this sounds like, you know, your home music. So I think this is a big win for him. And essentially, I do think that this is kind of like unlocking a different part of his artistry where he is giving us those stories and blending it in a way that, you know, people who, again, there's people who are loving this album who don't know any of the stuff we just said in this project. Like, they had no idea that he had these deep messages in there, the whole song being a double entendre. Like, he has a few songs like that on this project. I'm sure people don't know that at all. So to have that blend in and people are just liking it just as much as they like the last ones, that's extremely rare. And then, last but not least, is how unique it is for him to do that. I think, at least in American pop music, we've seen it so often where when the song has a message, the tone changes of the production. I always think about Ludacris' Runaway Love, where, Runaway Love, production-wise, is very different from Roll Out.
True.
Still both very good songs, but it's like he could have rapped Runaway Love on Roll Out, but in hip-hop, you just don't do that. And I think, this is kind of a part of pop music that maybe we need to catch up to on this side, because clearly we love it. Clearly there's some merit to it. But I think him doing that, because he does have the voice, he does have songs like Teresa that are a little bit slower, where he could do that and have the slower songs be the ones that are more emotional or more deep. But he's like, no, y'all can still dance to this.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think that is something that we're kind of used to from him, has been his sound overall. But I think the good job of meshing those two, he knocked that out of the park.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of, if you're a rock fan, The Cure.
Yes. Okay, right? That's a good one. Yeah,
The Cure, where it's songs are sad as fuck, bro.
But they're ragers.
Yeah, so it's
I guess that is a rock thing, because I want to say, rock does a lot of that where it's they're yearning or heartbroken or even straight angry.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe that is more something that's happened to Robert. Rock is not pop anymore, so maybe that's
because
where that went.
You can even think of a song like Creep.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Creep is probably one of the most famous rock songs. And it's he literally says, I'm a loser. He's like, I'm a creep and I'm a loser. So.
That song kind of fits the tone and what he's saying a bit more, but I get what you're saying of that era of pop music where it's not braggadocious, it's almost self-deprecating.
And it could be the most popular thing that's happening right now.
I do think maybe that's something that he's tapped into that in the Western world we don't have as much, because I think about some of the top pop acts like Bruno Mars, Ariana Grande, even Billie Eilish. Billie Eilish feels like the one to mix those two. She has the chops to really mix those two together, but we haven't really seen it in the same way. It's almost like if you have this big pop song, it has to have that positive message, to it. So I really love that he did that. Before we talk about the cover, is this a no skips to you?
Yes.
Yeah, no skips for me as well.
Yeah, it's a no skips pretty easily too. I think you could just put it, you could just put it on anywhere, you
could shuffle it.
Yeah. And it would still totally play, right? So I think that's definitional no skips to me.
I think we made you a Bad Bunny fan. That's what it sounds like to me. This time last week you weren't a Bad Bunny fan and now you're a Bad Bunny fan. Is that correct?
I think I was always a Bad Bunny acknowledger. I was an acknowledger of Bad Bunny.
Okay, but you're a fan now.
But now I'm like, okay, that one was good. It was a good album.
Okay. So you're not claiming fan yet, but we'll get you there.
Yeah, I'm appreciator right now.
Okay,
I can appreciate a Bad Bunny song. I mean, I've heard other Bad Bunny songs that I know that they're good.
But I think now you might put on the aux.
Maybe
now there's a shot you put on the aux, because I do think the thing about him and why this is a clear no skips for me as well is because it's very similar to Soca in that way, where it's the tempo and the drums. That's all we need. As long as the tempo and the drums fit the mood. They can rock. So in a sense, you can almost put any of these songs on the aux.
True. That's very true.
And it will be fine. Obviously, you might want to put the one that you like on more, or the popular one on for anyone who does know.
Yeah.
But in a sense, it's choose anyone and it'll be fine.
Yeah. So I'm an admirer of Bad Bunny. Not full fan, but I recognize him.
Okay.
I see there's good work happening here.
And the cover. We talked about it a bit off mic. I like this cover a lot. I think this cover is probably the warmest cover he's had in a while. And that's why I brought up a couple of times of this sounding like music from his home country. Is nothing says Puerto Rico more than this cover right here.
Yeah, I think also being from a tropical island, our heritage is Jamaica. That shit looks just looks just like Jamaica too.
Feels like home.
Yeah, so I think that the cover is cool. I mentioned at the top where it was I knew more about the cover before I even knew the album was coming out. So the cover is already has a little bit of iconic look, a little iconic. I think that it's very much a home-ish, if you've been to any of these places in North America, any of these island nations, that photo is like what it looks like. That's what it looks like. You go into somebody's backyard, somebody's front yard, there's just two of those literal exact chairs just sitting under a tree. Right? That's what it looks like. So I like that.
And you know what's crazy about this is he does have the two exact right chairs, because you got the one with the arms,
and
the one with no arms. And then as well, it's kind of like they're both usually not that sturdy.
Yeah, no.
And it's like sometimes you'll see someone sitting in them and you're kind of like
there's a little wobble to them.
Yeah, it's like, how are you fitting in this chair? Like you're scared me about having you in this chair. So I like that he has the chairs. This also is, I think, the first cover that he has that's actually a picture. Most of his covers have been animated, so I like this different kind of tone for him, because it kind of tips off the listener. Okay, this is a different Bad Bunny we're getting here.
Yeah.
So when I think about this album on vinyl, this probably would be a cop for me. One, I like the cover a lot.
Yeah.
And I do think of all the Bad Bunny albums, this is kind of the sound I would want on vinyl, because I feel like I'm not Puerto Rican, but my family is from an island.
Yeah.
And this gives the island feel.
Yeah.
And I feel like putting this on, this would give the vibe that I want for a vinyl. So this is a vinyl cop for me.
Yeah, me too. I think that, when you're no skips, the music quality is high and it's danceable. So you don't want to lift the needle, right?
Yeah,
you just want to let it rock, dance to the songs. It's a good time. So I think it's a vinyl cop. So the moment everybody has been waiting for, this is our first ever Spanish album, Spanish language album that we've ever reviewed. So, Adriel, what is your score for DTMF? I'm not going for the pronunciation again. What is your score for DTMF by Bad Bunny?
DTMF for me is an 8.5.
Okay.
I want to give it a 9, but I feel like there's a part of this project that I'm like, just the reggaeton in general is not for everybody. And I'm pretty aware that I'm not a lover of soca myself. So I know everyone who knows that I don't love soca is surprised by this score. But this is one of the best albums that we've reviewed in a long time, I would say.
Okay.
Like I like this project a lot. And this is a project that has such good replay value in terms of like, you can't really get tired of this album. It's really hard to get, even though it does sound similar in some sense, it's hard to get tired of this project. Like, it just has such an energy to it. I know we don't usually use the word energy to describe a project, but it has an energy to it. It feels warm. It feels sunny. Like, this is almost like an album you need right now in Toronto when the snow is falling on the ground. Like, this album makes you feel a little bit warmer. So this to me is 8.5. Let's go with the 9. Let's go full-fledged 9 with this one. 9 for me, Bad Bunny, DTMF. Where are you with the score?
I think I'm at I think I'm at an 8.5. I think I'm an 8.5 out of 10. I think that one thing that he should have done was release the shit in the summer or the spring, bro. Like,
it's summer right now in Puerto Rico.
Well,
that's the point right there. Like, and it's funny you mentioned that. I'm like, when I think that was part of me liking this project so much, as I was like, this project is not for us, but we still love it. And last week we talked about Lil Baby, and we said, Lil Baby is kind of disappointing his fans and us. Bad Bunny's doing the opposite. Like,
true.
You know what I'm saying? He's pleasing his fans and pleasing us.
Yeah.
So it's like, this ain't for us. He don't give at all.
That's true.
Snowing in Toronto. Like, that don't matter to him at all. Like, where he's from, his people, the sun is shining.
Yeah, that's true. But I think the songwriting is great. From what I can inference, right? From what I can inference, it's
trust the translation.
Yeah, exactly. I'm here. I'm two degrees of separation, right? I think that it's really good, the songwriting. I think that the production is sound very good. I think that it is reggaeton, right? So like, it's going to sound samey in some spaces, but I don't know. Like, when he's introducing deep house, electronic music, he's introducing to late 2000s pop music. Sometimes it's just the guitar. Like, there's still variation, lots of variation that's happening. I think his singing is good. I wonder if that is like sacrilege to say. I'm really curious on what people are gonna say when I
about his singing.
Yeah, because I think it's good, but again, I don't speak Spanish, so there's definitely a group of Spanish singers that obviously eclipse him.
But good is not too crazy. You're not saying he's excellent, like the best ever. Good, I think, is fine.
Yeah, so I think his singing is good. I think my primary issue is stop cutting the track. Stop doing that. Like, I don't get it because I'm getting into the groove. I'm like, okay. And then like we're hitting a minute 20 and then it just cuts. And then he's like speaking, or he's speaking or somebody else is speaking. I'm like, I get it because I listen to Brockhampton. I understand. Okay. But I don't know. I felt like it was hurting the songs because I actually liked the things that were happening and then we're stopping it to do something else. So I think it's an 8.5 for me. Very good. One of the albums of the year. I feel like, we have an album pretty much every January or February that sets the tone. It's like the barometer, you know what I mean? It's like you're doing the high jump. That's where the pole is at, right? And I think he set the tone.
I think so too.
Yeah, this is one of the best albums. This is one of the best albums of the year.
Yes. On the 16th, we're saying that, but I do think that's true. I want to know what you guys think in the comments. Bad Bunny fans, show up. Okay, we see him selling out every arena.
Yeah, show
up in our comment section. What's your favorite song? What's your favorite album? And how do you feel about this project? Are we just drinking the Kool-Aid, being kind of new to reviewing him? Is this one of his worst projects and we have no idea? Let us know, please, in the comments. Find us on YouTube at Album Mode. Find us on the interwebs at Album Mode Pod, on Twitter, Album Mode Pod, on Instagram, Album Mode Pod, on TikTok, and of course, leave us a rating and review on all your podcast platforms. 5 stars, not a single star less. And of course, know yourself, know your worth.
Later days.